Tonight, trouble on the home front. Foreclosures soar, sales fall again. But some government help is on the way. And we'll have tips for buyers in our series Hitting Home. I'm Katie Couric. Also tonight, a scare 29,000 feet in the air. A loud bang, then oxygen masks drop as a big section of a Qantas jetliner bound for Australia rips open. A CBS News investigation. These health experts say childhood vaccines are safe, but are their opinions being compromised? And you may have thought letter writing was a lost art, but Steve Hartman finds some modern-day pen pals.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Good evening, everyone. It is a national tragedy and personal nightmare. More and more families are in danger of losing their homes. A report out today says nearly 750,000 homes were facing foreclosure in the spring of this year, well over twice as many as a year earlier. And as Jim Axelrod reports, in some parts of the country, it's a lot worse.
Compared to this time last year, foreclosure rates have tripled in California and tripled in Arizona. In Nevada, 1 in every 43 households received a foreclosure notice in the last few months.
We've never really seen anything this bad in terms of foreclosures in the housing market since people have been keeping records.
And there was even more troubling housing news today. Sales of new homes were down in June. That makes declines in 7 of the last 8 months. Foreclosures and slow sales dump more homes on the market. That, in turn, lowers prices even more. Some experts predict all this instability will mean lenders make fewer home loans, maybe half the number of mortgages seen 2 years ago. The housing bill working its way through Congress is the most far-reaching rescue effort since the Great Depression, a $300 billion lifeline for homeowners facing foreclosure and their lenders. The bill allows homeowners to get out of those killer adjustable-rate mortgages and into new fixed-rate loans guaranteed by the government. It's tailor-made for Myra Pineda, whose adjustable mortgage just ballooned from $3,600 to $4,800 a month. With a $75,000 a year salary, she's declared bankruptcy and is now in foreclosure.
So many homeowners that we're in desperate situation right now, and no one has been able to help us.
First-time home buyers would also be helped by $15 billion in tax credits contained in the bill. Buyers making less than $95,000 would be eligible for up to a $7,500 credit. They would then pay back over the next 15 years.
As troubling as today's numbers are for new home sales, Wall Street actually rallied on the news because they weren't as bad as expected. These days, what passes for good news on the housing front is something not quite as horrible as anticipated. Katie?
Jim Axelrod at the White House tonight. Jim, thank you. Home prices have been dropping sharply, especially in places like Los Angeles, Miami, and Las Vegas, down about 25% in the past year. It is definitely a buyer's market, but it is also buyer beware, as Kelly Coviella reports in our continuing series, Hitting Home.
This is the house you saw on the website.
Ivana Posada is a hot commodity in an otherwise cold housing market. A prospective home buyer shopping for a deal.
There's more space, right?
How long have you been looking?
Right now, about 6 months. I'm purely looking at the numbers, the budget, the property, the price, if it interests me. So I'm just waiting out for an eager seller.
Buying low doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting a great deal. It only means that you're buying low.
Manuel Iriola is the founder and CEO of Home Keys, a website that helps weed out the bad buys. He says there are smart ways to find a good home and an eager seller. First, do your homework.
What did the last owner pay for that property and when that transaction took place? If someone bought post 2005, now there's more than 50-50 chance that that's a sale in distress.
And check the rest of the neighborhood for historical home values and today's prices. The home Ivana saw is listed at $589,000. The neighbors across the street and down the block are asking for more than $100,000 less.
So if you are a buyer, you owe it to yourself to take a look at both.
Second, don't worry about waiting for the bottom of the market. What goes down will go up in 3 to 5 years. Third, get pre-approved for a loan before you look. It's a buyer's market, not a borrower's market. So you'll need a high credit score, low debt, a steady job, and proof of income, plus at least 10% down. Even with nearly perfect credit, Ivana's bank required 20% down for pre-approval.
What a fantastic view.
She's made an offer on a condo, but she's ready to walk away from a deal that isn't perfect, even if the view is. Kelly Kobiella, CBS News, Miami Beach.
To presidential politics now. Barack Obama is in London tonight after getting a warm welcome in Paris. Here's tonight's CBS News Campaign 08 notebook. President Sarkozy told Senator Obama the French have been following him, quote, with passion, but quickly pointed out that was not an endorsement. Earlier, the candidate said the Pentagon had barred him from visiting wounded U.S. troops in Germany because it was considered a political event. But the Pentagon denies that, telling CBS News the senator is free to visit any military facility as long as he's not joined by campaign staffers. Meanwhile, John McCain delivered one of his harshest attacks yet on his opponent, telling a veterans group he was choosing failure by not supporting the surge in Iraq.
Fortunately, Senator Obama failed, not our military. We rejected the audacity of hopelessness, and we were right.
Late today, Senator McCain discussed human rights with the Dalai Lama, who also declined to make an endorsement. But in the battle of photo ops, it wasn't much of a contest. Barack Obama visited Europe and the war zones while John McCain stayed home. But will that necessarily mean a surge in the polls for the Democratic candidate? Here's Jeff Greenfield.
He sat face to face with world leaders. He was greeted by the troops, even made a three-point basket. Tens of thousands cheered him in the streets, and every move, every gesture was the subject of microscopic media scrutiny.
It was presidential. I don't know what other person in the world right now could draw a crowd like that.
Meanwhile, to judge from the coverage, John McCain was enduring the political equivalent of Hell Week, reinforcing the age problem in a golf cart photo op with the 84-year-old ex-President Bush.
Given the situation on the Iraq-Pakistan border.
Committing verbal stumbles like placing Iraq on Pakistan's border. The reviews were toxic, the narrative near unanimous. This was a campaign in free fall.
Obama's rival John McCain has had a couple of pretty tough days. John McCain wandered around a grocery store and complained.
But then, in the midst of Obama's travels, came new poll numbers. McCain was running nearly even with Obama in some national tracks, closing the gap in battleground states like Michigan, Minnesota, Colorado. And now the narrative changed. Maybe Obama's trip was too presumptuous. Maybe voters at home don't like a candidate too popular in other countries.
You wonder how that's going to play in places like Michigan and Ohio and Pennsylvania.
By one poll account, voters see Obama as a riskier choice than McCain, who they judge higher on key qualities like leadership and reliability. What's going on here? Maybe a lot less than meets the eye.
Every election we go through the cycles of, oh, no, that was completely wrong. Now we have the answer. Oh, no, gosh, oh, this is the right theory. Now we're on the right track.
But just as the coverage was pivoting to explain McCain's gains, yet another poll out of Minnesota says, hold it. Obama's actually leading not by 2 points, but by 12 points.
Which raises some other possibilities, like maybe nothing happened to change the numbers. Maybe everybody's using different measurements. And summertime polls about a November election are notoriously unreliable. And maybe tens of millions of Americans are not hypnotically watching every political event every minute. And maybe those of us who are ought to try the decaf.
Jeff Greenfield. Jeff, thanks so much. In other news tonight, hundreds of passengers got the scare of their lives today. Their Qantas 747 was flying from Hong Kong to Australia when a big section of the plane suddenly tore open. The pilot managed a safe emergency landing in Manila. Nancy Cordes has more.
The jumbo jet was nearly at full cruising altitude, an hour into flight, when passengers heard a loud bang and saw debris blow into the cabin. Some rolled their cameras as oxygen masks dropped down and the plane depressurized.
An almighty crack, and you could hear something happening.
That almighty crack was the sound of a gaping hole the size of a car being ripped in the Boeing 747's fuselage. The pilots made a dive from 29,000 feet to 10,000 so passengers could breathe more easily. Then they diverted the flight to Manila, where all 365 aboard arrived unharmed.
We hadn't realised there was a hole in the plane, so we got down on the ground and had a look afterwards.
Sources say the big hole does not bear the telltale signs of a bomb.
They'll check the maintenance of the aircraft.
Aviation expert Peter Goltz says the passengers are just lucky the tear happened exactly where it did.
It's a pretty robust area of the plane where the wing connects in through the center wing tank is really probably one of the strongest areas of the aircraft.
Industry sources tell CBS News it's also an area where other 747-400s have been known to experience structural cracking. Rigorous inspections for metal fatigue and corrosion have been required ever since this Aloha Airlines accident 20 years ago, where saltwater corrosion caused the cockpit door and part of the roof to rip off the Boeing 737, killing 1 and injuring 65. Experts call today's incident a major failure that could have led to disaster and will likely lead to more inspections. Nancy Cordes, CBS News, Reagan National Airport.
Late news now from California. The state has become the first in the nation to ban restaurants from using those artery-clogging trans fats in preparing food. Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger calls it a step toward creating a healthier future. Violators could be fined as much as $1,000. There is much more CBS News ahead. You may have thought pen pals went the way of the quill pen, but Steve Hartman says they are back. But up next, they insist childhood vaccines are safe, but are they being objective? You might wonder after we follow the money. For years now, parents have wondered if vaccines are linked to conditions like autism and ADD. Government officials and some scientists say there is no connection, and they're often backed by independent experts. But just how independent are they? You may be surprised at what Cheryl Atkinson found when she set out to follow the money.
They're some of the most trusted voices in the defense of vaccine safety. The American Academy of Pediatrics, Every Child by Two, and pediatrician Dr. Paul Offit. But CBS News has found these three have something more in common.
Polio number 2.
Strong financial ties to the industry whose products they promote and defend. The vaccine industry gives millions to the Academy of Pediatrics for conferences, grants, medical education classes, even help pay to build their headquarters. The totals are kept secret, but public documents reveal bits and pieces. $342,000 was given to the Academy by Wyeth, maker of the pneumococcal vaccine, for a community grant program. $433,000 was contributed to the Academy by Merck, the same year the Academy endorsed Merck's HPV vaccine. Another top donor, Sanofi Aventis, maker of 17 vaccines, and a new 5-in-1 combo shot just added to the childhood vaccine schedule last month. Every Child by Two, a group that promotes early immunization for all children, admits the group takes money from the vaccine industry too, but wouldn't tell us how much. A spokesman told us there are simply no conflicts to be unearthed. But guess who has been listed as the group's treasurers? An official from Wyeth and a paid advisor to big pharmaceutical clients. Then there's Dr. Paul Offit, perhaps the most widely quoted defender of vaccine safety. He's gone so far as to say babies can theoretically tolerate, quote, 10,000 vaccines at once. This is how Offit described himself in a previous interview.
I'm the chief of infectious diseases at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and a professor of pediatrics at Penn's Medical School.
Dr. Offit was not willing to be interviewed on this subject, but like others in our investigation, he has strong industry ties. In fact, he's a vaccine industry insider. Dr. Offit holds a $1.5 million research chair at Children's Hospital funded by Merck. He holds the patent on an anti-diarrhea vaccine he developed with Merck, Rototec, which has prevented thousands of hospitalizations in the U.S. And future royalties for the vaccine were just sold for $182 million cash. Dr. Offit's share of vaccine profits, unknown.
There's nothing illegal about the possible conflicts of interest, but as one member of Congress put it, money from the pharmaceutical industry can shape the practices of those who hold themselves out to be independent. The American Academy of Pediatrics, Every Child by Two, and Dr. Offit wouldn't agree to interviews, but all told us they're upfront about the money they receive, and it doesn't sway their opinions.
Today's immunization schedule now calls for kids to get 55 doses of vaccines by age 6. Ideally, it makes for a healthier society, but critics worry that industry ties could impact the advice given to the public about all those vaccines. Cheryl Atkinson, CBS News, Washington.
And now we take you back in time to the most famous arrest in U.S. history. Detective Paul Bentley taking Lee Harvey Oswald into custody after a scuffle inside the Texas Theater in Dallas.
Help! A policeman hit me.
Bentley said a Masonic ring he was wearing made that cut over Oswald's eye during the arrest. Afterward, the detective said he asked Oswald if he'd shot President Kennedy, and Oswald replied, "Find out for yourself." Paul Bentley died this week. He was 87. And about the famous arrest, he'd always said he was just doing his job. When we come back, how a man who was dying taught the world about living. Recently, Time magazine invited me to select one of the 100 most influential people of the year, and I picked Randy Pausch. A professor at Carnegie Mellon, he used his diagnosis of pancreatic cancer to deliver an important lesson about living. His last lecture, a term given to those imparting final words of wisdom to their students, has been watched online by millions of people worldwide. Pausch lost his battle with pancreatic cancer today. He was 47. Here's Richard Schlesinger.
Dr. Randy Pausch.
Randy Pausch was a computer science professor, but he taught lessons about life with the kind of authority that can come only from being so close to death. Last year, fresh from the news that his cancer was spreading, this was Professor Pausch at his last lecture at Carnegie Mellon University.
So anybody who wants to cry or pity me can come down and do a few of those, and then you may pity me. There I am.
Ideas that might be platitudes coming from someone else seemed profound coming from him.
I don't know how to not have fun, right? I'm dying and I'm having fun. And I'm going to keep having fun every day I have left.
Millions were moved to download this lecture.
Right?
His book about life became a worldwide bestseller. And as he got sicker, his outlook seemed healthier, even as he faced the prospect of leaving his family.
Believe me, we've shed tears, but it's never been sort of a let's feel sorry for ourselves.
Please join me in welcoming home Randy Pausch.
Randy Pausch lived longer than his doctors said he would, and last spring he appeared at the Carnegie Mellon graduation to acknowledge, as he put it, beating the Grim Reaper.
We don't beat the Reaper by living longer. We beat the Reaper by living well.
And by living for others. At the end of that last lecture, there was a celebration, but not for him. The birthday cake was for his wife, Jay.
Dear Jay.
Who he now leaves, along with their 3 children. Richard Schlesinger, CBS News, New York.
When you were in grade school, did you ever have a pen pal? Of course, a lot of us did. That was before text messaging and emails and chat rooms. But there's at least one place where the tradition lives on. Here's Steve Hartman's Assignment America.
We want to know 8 divided by 2 is what?
Division is not the highlight of second grade.
12.
The highlight of second grade.
Very nice.
At least for Amy Fru's class.
Woohoo! How exciting.
And across town in Katie Bentley's class.
Max.
Is getting the mail.
The entire day we'll be like, can we get our pen pal letters now? Now?
Please, can we?
Right now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
For those of you too young to remember the concept, here's how it works.
First, we get assigned a pen pal, and then we write letters to each other back and forth.
Why don't you guys just talk on the phone?
Well, we don't have our phone numbers, and besides, that would kind of ruin the pen pal thing.
The schools involved are West Park Elementary, where Miss Bentley teaches, and Culverdale Elementary, where Miss Fru works. They're in Irvine, California, about a mile apart. The 2 classes traded letters all year, until a few weeks ago, when the kids finally got to meet their pen pals at a picnic.
And that was the official end of the assignment. Now it's up to them to keep up the friendships. And many will, because they already know the second half of this story.
How many people remember how Miss Fru and Miss Bentley met?
19 years ago.
Do you remember?
Miss Bentley was a second grader herself here at West Park.
Okay.
Miss Frew,
a couple minutes.
a second grader at Culverdale. And yes,
Buddy, how are you?
they were pen pals. Traded letters all the way through high school.
Oh, guys that I liked in junior high. No, stop.
Today, they're best friends, teaching the same classes at the same schools they were at when they met.
I just can't believe that everything fell into place the way that it did.
The kids can't believe it either. Friends since 1991.
Do you know how long ago that was, 1991?
Yeah, that was before they invented cars. They had to use wheels and horses.
That's right. It's a long time ago.
And boys had to wear skirts.
Did they teach history here?
No.
Okay.
Fortunately, there's an even better lesson to be learned here. A lesson about friendship that pen pals like Alexander Doan and Mitchell Rogers are already taking to heart. After their meeting at the picnic, these boys made a commitment.
Do you think you guys will be friends?
To the end.
To the end?
Yeah, to 6th grade.
Steve Hartman,
6th grade to the end.
CBS News, Irvine, California.
Friends to the end.
That's great. And that is the CBS Evening News. I'm Katie Couric. Thank you for watching this week. Have a great weekend. Good night.